Good afternoon, everybody. Just opened the webinar, so come on in, be seated, pull up a drink, and we'll get started shortly. Glad to have you with us this afternoon. Again, good afternoon, everybody. Seeing people come into the webinar, we're going to give everybody just a couple of seconds here to get logged in, and we're going to begin shortly. Hope you're all having a wonderful Thursday and you're staying cool. Man, it's warm and humid here in Austin. Oof. And again, if you're just joining us, we're glad to have you with us today. We're giving folks a few minutes just to get logged in, and we'll begin here shortly. Okay, let's go ahead and get things started. Once again, good afternoon. Glad to have you with us this afternoon and glad you can make time in your schedule to join us for just a courtesy training on how DIR serves you, our customers, for your information technology needs. One of the reasons we're doing this webinar today is that throughout the last couple of years, our agency has been participating with the Governor's Small Business Summits that go on throughout the state of Texas. And what those entail is that the governor's office goes around to different cities throughout the state and they talk to vendors about how to do business with the state of Texas. And DIR participates in those summits from the technology standpoint. So we talk to a lot of vendors on how to do business with DIR at those governor's business summits. What we like to do in the afternoon, so this morning, our Hub Outreach and Training team was in Denison at an event talking to vendors. We like to bring people around the regional area there together for a webinar, you, our customers, on who actually use DIR for your information technology procurements. So today we were in Denton for that event. So most of our audience today is basically Denison and Grayson and the Denton and Denison Sherman areas and counties east of there. Now, a couple of weeks ago on April 24th, we were in Orange at a Governor's Small Business Summit. And I had a webinar scheduled on April 24th, and unfortunately, I had to cancel that at the very last minute. So we've got some folks from Southeast Texas on with us today. And again, you folks in Southeast Texas, I'm sorry for that last minute cancellation, but I'm glad you could join us today. So our audience today is regionally way North Texas and also the Orange Beaumont area, kind of on down the coast as well to about the Galveston area. Our participants today are mainly local governments, city, county governments, school districts, institutions of higher education, along with eligible assistance organizations in Texas who can also use DIR for their information technology needs. And then our participants today are primarily procurement, business managers, contract managers, information technology directors, and staff, because you're the ones who use us and you might be already familiar with us. This might be new information for some of you. This might be a review for some of you, but at any rate, we're glad to have you with us this afternoon. Couple of quick housekeeping items. Just want to remind, if you would, give me a hand raise in your Q&A box if you can hear me okay. I just want to do a quick sound check and that I've got a good connection because this week I've been having some technology issues. Okay, thank you. I see a lot of hands going up. So you can put your hands down now and thank you for that. Also, open your Q&A box. We're going to be monitoring that throughout the webinar. We do have everybody muted today. We've got over 100 folks on with us, or about 100. So put your questions in the Q&A box. Victor Adkins with DIR is also here with us today, and he's going to help monitor those questions. All right. So let's go ahead and dig in. By the way, I sent you all a copy of the slide deck today, so you can hang on to that and use that for your reference. So as an agency, DIR is responsible for a lot of things when it comes to information technology and how we serve you, our customers. We've got our IT procurement and contracting area. That includes our cooperative contracts program that allows you, our customers, to go directly to our DIR vendors and buy a wide variety of different products and services, hardware, software, technology services, things like that. We've also got our shared technology services program. That's where we do it for you. I'm going to talk a little bit about that program today and how your entities can use that. We also handle data management functions as an agency, and that includes the Texas Open Data Portal. I'm going to show you. I'm going to do a demo for you in that on the second half this afternoon. We also handle the Texas.gov portal. That allows all of us as constituents to do business with the state of Texas. So if you've ever renewed your auto registration online or bought a hunting or fishing license, that portal allows all of us to do business with the state when the need arises. We also provide technology leadership. We set IT standards for the state of Texas, and we're also a resource to you, our customers, in helping you set IT standards as well. We also provide technology telecom services through our contract offerings. I'll talk a little bit more about that today as well. And then, of course, cybersecurity is a large responsibility for DIR and us being a resource to you, our customers. And we also have to keep the state safe when it comes to those bad actors. This is just a little of my background. My name's Tom Hay. I've been with DIR for 14 years now, 16 years with the state of Texas. And I actually came to DIR from TRS, the Teacher Retirement System. And I know there's an agency there that a lot of you on here today are already aware of. So I've had a great time at DIR. I've gotten to do many different things from vendor management to managing cooperative contracts and also managing shared technology services contracts. Now I spend a lot of my time working with you, our customers, on how to use DIR, as well as our vendor community on how to do business with DIR and the state of Texas. So what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about some statutes for procurement methods and how those apply to DIR. I'm going to give you some background on our agency, and then I'm going to talk about some of our program areas that you can utilize for your information technology needs. I'm going to give you a demo on how to search the DIR website. We'll talk about statements of work and how those apply in the IT world, give you some tips on managing IT contracts. There are hub opportunities available through our DIR contracts. We'll talk about cybersecurity training requirements that apply to all of us. And then I'll wrap up and leave you with some resources. And again, if you do have questions, just open your Q&A box and we'll get those answered today. So a couple of quick things just to be aware of when it comes to statutes for procurement methods. DIR uses the request for offer method to procure AIS, or Automated Information Systems, and information technology services. Very similar to an RFP, but RFOs are specific to information technology procurements. And they're kind of used basically for more larger, complex type procurements, which of course IT is part of that. As an agency, all of our DIR contracts are competitively bid, and they are awarded in accordance with statute as set forth by the Texas legislature. So some co-ops operate differently, but as a state agency, all of our contracts are competitively bid. That then allows you, our customers, to do business with our cooperative contracts vendors by ordering directly from that DIR vendor. You issue your PO to them. Just make sure that DIR contract number, vendor number, is referenced on your POs. And then just from an administrative standpoint, our agency follows Texas Government Codes 2157.068 for information technology products and services, and then it's Government Code 2170 that we follow for telecom services. And for you procurement professionals, you can also reference your state procurement and contract management guide for a little bit more information on those state procurement methods. Some of you have probably already completed the CTCD or CTC. So if you could take DIR and kind of split it into four basic categories, this is what the pie chart would look like. First of all, our agency is still kind of relatively young. We were just created in 1989. And, that's kind of when technology started changing our lives on how we lived and how we did business. Paper was starting to kind of go away at that point. So, through an act of legislation, that's how DIR came into being as a state agency. And our main purpose is to serve as the Chief Information Office for the state of Texas. We've got our cooperative contracts program available to you. And this is kind of the do it yourself or the self service model of IT procurements, where you can go directly to our DIR vendors and buy things like hardware, software. There's services based contracts for things like deliverables based IT services. I'll talk a little bit more about those in a minute. We've got IT staffing services contracts available. I'll talk more about those today as well. And then it gives us the opportunity from time to time to initiate what we call short term bulk purchasing opportunities, where when we know that certain IT products or services are in very high demand from our DIR customers, we're going to take that into consideration and attempt to negotiate short term bulk purchasing opportunities where those products and services are going to be offered at yet deeper discounts as compared to the regular contracted discount. So, for example, let's say that DIR, that we know that Health and Human Services needs to order 4,000 new computers. We also know that Dallas County needs to order 4,000 new computers. We've identified a potential short-term bulk purchasing opportunity. So we're going to take that information back to our computer vendors and attempt to negotiate a short-term bulk purchasing opportunity. Could be for 3 months, could be for 6 months, whatever we can negotiate with those vendors. They're kind of what we call our Kmart blue light specials because you got to get them when the getting's good, So, for example, a Dell laptop that's currently 25% off of MSRP on the Dell contract, if it's on a bulk purchasing opportunity, that Dell laptop might be offered at 40% off of MSRP, but it's only going to be for a short amount of time. Again, it could, whatever term we can negotiate with those vendors. The nice thing about those bulk purchasing initiatives when we have them in place is that no purchasing thresholds apply. So you can buy one item or you can buy 1,000 items if it's available on a bulk purchasing opportunity. The other nice thing is that they're open to all of our eligible DIR customers, which of course all of you here today are one of those. So I've got a little more information later on I'll share with you as well. We also provide communication services as well, and we do that in a couple of different ways. First of all, we manage the Capitol Complex telephone system for agencies in and around the Capitol building here in Austin, as well as the Capitol building itself. We also provide internet and network security operations services, making sure that the state's networks are kept safe. And then, of course, like I'd mentioned, security operations is a large responsibility. We've got to make sure that the state and you, our customers, using services through DIR are kept safe from those bad actors. Then on the opposite side of co-op, where you do it yourself through our vendors, under our shared technology services, this is where we do it for you. So it is required that agreements be on file with DIR to use this program, but once you get those in place, and you agree to the terms and conditions of whatever program area you're using, it's as easy as logging into the portal, you tell us the service you need, and we go get that service done for you. So we've negotiated contracts with vendors for things like data center services. This is also where the Texas.gov portal program lies at DIR. So again, that portal allows all of us to do business with the state. So our customers or DIR's customers are entities like Parks and Wildlife, the Department of Motor Vehicles, any eligible entity that puts services through that portal that allow the constituents to do business with the state. We also have the Open Data Portal. This is the official state repository of publicly available electronic data. I'm going to show you in a minute how your entities can use that. And then we also offer managed security services through this program as well. Recently, a lot of school districts have been using this program to do security scans at their entities. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that too. And then, of course, we also do policy and planning. We set that IT strategic plan for the state of Texas. What is that for the next year? What about 3 years, 5 years down the road? Doing that more longer term strategic plan. We also provide IT standards for the state of Texas. And again, we're a resource to you, our customers, in helping you set IT standards. And then, as you all know, Ledge is in full session right now, so we're always busy reporting on the state of technology to state leadership as well. Uh, don't know what's going to come out of this session, and I'm sure all of you have been watching bills that are going through on some level right now as well. So we'll see how it all shakes out. So, who are DIR's eligible customers? Well, Texas state agencies and institutions of higher education. There's 183 eligible entities. There's over 6,200 eligible local government entities. Cities, counties, schools, municipalities. Political subdivisions, special purpose districts, junior colleges. Then there's also other organizations who are also eligible to utilize DIR for their IT products and services needs. That includes assistance organizations as they are defined by the Comptroller's Office. Entities like ERCOT, LCRA, private schools, that includes charter schools, private higher ed, volunteer fire departments, public safety entities like 911 centers, hospitals. A lot of y'all use your county hospitals to buy IT products and services for. And then we've also got a large number of public entities located outside of Texas who, when they have an interstate cooperation contract in place with us, they can also procure information technology products and services through our co-op contracts. That includes out-of-state state agencies, local governments, public higher ed, and school districts located outside of Texas. So let's talk a little bit about our Shared Technology Services program. This is the program where we do it for you. It is required that agreements be on file with DIR to use this program, but once you get those in place, again, it's just kind of as easy as logging into the portal. You tell us the service you need, and we go get that service done for you on your behalf. This slide kind of shows you how our shared technology services program is modeled here at DIR. Just kind of briefly, we've negotiated a contract with a multi-sourcing services integrator, or an MSI. That vendor is Capgemini. Capgemini kind of acts as the overall program manager of our shared technology services, as well as the vendors and the services that those vendors provide to you, our customers, through this program. So they handle things like the business and operations and customer service management. Just make sure the program's running smoothly and that the vendors are providing the services that you're requesting. Then the specific offerings available that customers can use through this program are things like data center services. That includes private cloud, public cloud, mainframe support services, technology solution services if you're using the data center program. Also things like print, mail, and digitization services. And then we've got a security operations vendor who makes sure that those states' data centers are kept safe. The Texas.gov portal is part of this program as well. Again, if you've ever renewed something online or done business with the state, then you have used that portal. We offer managed security services through this program as well. I'll talk a little bit more about those. And then we've got the Texas Open Data Portal, which allows you to post public data out on that open data portal, thereby making it available to the general public. So under our data center services program, again, Capgemini kind of acts as the overall program manager of this program for us. SIAC is the vendor who holds the contract for just making sure the state's data centers are kept safe. Security is their main primary responsibility of this program. So they offer services like privileged access services, security policies and standards for our customers who are using the data center, active threat identification, security incident and event management. Again, just making sure that the state's data centers are kept safe. Deloitte also has a contract available for things like technology solution services through the data center program. So they offer things like technology planning services, solution consulting, and project delivery services. Deloitte also has a contract available for things like application development, maintenance, and support through the data center. They also offer legacy modernization services. If customers are using the data center services and you've got some outdated apps, they can help bring them into more modern standards. Deloitte also offers staff augmentation services through this program as well. Private cloud services, that vendor is Atos. They are pretty self-explanatory. They offer backup services for customers in a private cloud environment. So for example, we know that the storage for body cameras is unbelievably huge. It just takes up a lot of space on a server. So, sometimes our customers don't have that extra space. This is where private cloud can come in as a service because it offers things like backup as a service, disaster recovery services for IT, all in a private cloud environment. The public cloud manager services, that vendor is Rackspace. They offer things like Amazon Web Services, Azure, Google, and Oracle services. Other managed cloud services are also available through this offering, along with things like email through Office 365 and GIS services, things like aerial photography shots, things like that. Mainframe services, that vendor is Atos, pretty self-explanatory. They offer support for our customers who are using mainframes in their IT worlds. Not everybody is fully migrated to the cloud. And then print mail services, that vendor is Xerox. They offer programs like managed print and mail services, bulk mailing services, mail digitization and document management system services, all available through the Xerox offering. Texas.gov. So there are basically two vendors who make Texas.gov run and work for all of us when we're on that portal doing what we need to do. So one of them is Deloitte. Deloitte is responsible for making sure that the constituent payment portal is up and running. They make sure that the website is up and running and that those apps are supported and maintained and that that internet portal is doing what it needs to do. They offer like the Texas by Texas digital assistant, which is where you can sign on from your cell phone and do business with the Texas.gov services portal. They also handle things like the marketing and advertising. So when you're on Texas.gov, as you're clicking through those services you need, that part's all handled by Deloitte. But then we've got a payment services program as well. Tyler Technology currently processes payments through the Texas.gov portal. Incidentally, we are onboarding a new vendor for payment services. So later this year, you'll see a new vendor handling the payment services portion. But right now, Tyler Technology then processes those payments. They make sure that they're compliant and that they are then routed to the appropriate accounting system through the comptroller's office. Incidentally, there are also payment services available if you're like a local government and you need to put a payment portal out there for customers to pay utility bills through. Those types of payment services are also available through this offering at DIR. Managed security services. The vendor currently providing those services through this program is AT&T. Again, we will be onboarding a new vendor later this year. We did the resolicitation for this, and SIAC will be the new vendor who will be handling managed security services. But this program offers you, our customers, things like security monitoring and device management services. Things like malware detection, managing your firewalls, intrusion prevention and detection, things like that. Also, incident responses, things like, incident response and resolution services, forensic services, as well as compliance and risk assessments, things like vulnerability and risk assessment scans, web scans, things like that. Um, some of you all might remember back in August of 2019, there were counties in the state hit with ransomware and it locked them down. Matagorda County had an incident about 6 or 8 months ago where something similar happened. Through this agreement, we were able to step in and help those counties get that ransomware removed from their systems. So this is how managed security services are of benefit to you, our customers, through this program. So we always encourage our customers to have this agreement on file with us just in case you need it. You're never charged for any services unless you absolutely need them. Because in the event of an attack that minutes, hours, and days count. They count. So if this agreement's on file with us, we can typically have boots on the ground within a couple of hours, helping you get those risks mitigated. And then we also have the open data portal. And I just want to make a note here that this link right here in your PDF version is live. I'm going to give you a little demo in the second half on how you can utilize this portal. But what this portal is the official state repository of publicly available electronic data. What that means is, depending on your entity type, if you're a state agency or a local government or higher ed or a school district, you can post electronic data out on this portal, thereby making it available to the general public. We then manage that data for you. You don't have to manage it on your own systems. These are typically large data sets, things like tax rolls, tax records, things like that. Under the business and economy section here, DIR, we post our cooperative contract sales data from FY10 all the way to the current date. So any of you can go out and see what your entities have spent through DIR vendors for the last 14 fiscal years. Quite honestly, we're in the process of kind of updating that because we know 14 years is a lot of data. I think we're looking at limiting that to the last 5 or 10 years because that 14-year-old data is kind of irrelevant now. For example, the Department of Agriculture started posting data out here, and they let us know that their public information requests dropped by 60% because that data is now available on the open data portal for the public viewing. Cap Metro, the bus service provider here in Austin, posted their bus schedule out on the open data portal. And there was a company who took that data and wrote an app for it that customers can download, and it's updated every 15 seconds. So customers can see if they can walk to their bus or if they need to run to their bus. So those are just a couple of examples. Again, you've got access to this portal. You can go out and see this portal and kind of see what information is posted out there. I've also given you links to the DIR YouTube channel. There's little videos that show a little bit more information about our shared technology services program. They're about 3 to 4 minutes in length. So you can go out to the DIR YouTube channel and watch those after you watch all the cute cat videos, of course. And then I've also given you the main link to the DIR YouTube channel. There's other things out there you might find interesting, like cybersecurity topics or some of our procurement things or how to write a statement of work, things like that. Okay, let's talk about our cooperative contracts program. This might be the area of DIR where many of you are already familiar with us. This is again, the do-it-yourself or the self-service model of IT procurements, where you can go directly to our DIR vendors and buy things like hardware, software. There are services contracts available for things like cybersecurity services, training services. We've got IT staffing services available, deliverables-based IT services. I'll talk more about those. And this is where that bulk purchase program lies at DIR. It's directly linked to our cooperative contracts program. And I'm not going to cover this today because we don't have any state agencies on with us, but for state agencies, this is where we have to approve statements of work and exemptions for state agencies. But again, not going to cover that today because we don't have state agencies with us today. So what are the benefits of using DIR's cooperative contracts? Well, know you've got a choice in co-ops, and every co-op, operates a little bit differently. But for your IT products and services, we create savings for you, our customers. That's what the program is designed to do. So we leverage that state buying power to get the best prices and discounts that we can from the vendors who propose products and services to us when we do our RFOs. So we're always containing best value in our negotiations. What's in the best value of our customers and of the state of Texas? And then it does give us that bulk purchasing initiative incentive from time to time to be able to offer certain products and services at deeper discounts for shorter periods of time. It also streamlines the purchasing process for you, our customers, because, we've done a lot of that heavy lifting for you already. We've done the RFO and negotiated the master contracts with vendors. So that reduces any purchasing and contract cycle time as well as any duplicate efforts because now you probably don't have to do that solicitation. It then also gives you access to do business with our hub vendors. We've got a large number of both prime contract holders as well as hub certified resellers that you can do business with through our contracts. And then there's benefits for the vendors as well. Um, they're the ones who report to us once a month what they're selling on their DIR contracts and who they sold it to, at what price they sold it at what discount, if they used any resellers or subcontractors. So you don't issue us the PO, you don't report to us. It's our vendors who report to us once a month. And it also gives them access to do business with public entities like local govs and higher ed and state agencies and our other eligible customers. And last year, our cooperative contracts program generated $3.41 billion in sales. That's by you guys buying directly through our DIR cooperative contracts. And this is what that spending breakdown looked like. Oh my gosh, my slide is all messed up here. This is what that spending looked like. You might have to reference your PDF version for this slide, but I don't know why this is kind of messy. But anyway, state agencies right here made up about 31% of that spending in FY24. Um, local governments right here and K through 12 made up about 53% of that spending in FY24. Now, part of that is just because there are more local govs and K through 12 entities than there are state agencies. So it's kind of a numbers balance too. Higher ed made up about 15% of that spending. And then our out of state and assistance organizations made up about 3% of that spending. So again, I apologize if this slide's hard to read, but your PDF version has the stats on this slide. So what that means is that all generated down into about $376 million in savings to you, our customers, and to the state of Texas by buying through DIR's cooperative contracts. The other neat thing is that of that spending, about 35% was spent with our hub vendors. So thank you very much for spending money with our hub vendors. We really appreciate that. I see a question, can K through 12 Prop B tech bond funds be used towards software purchases? You may want to check to see if there are any limitations on how that money needs to be spent. I can't say that we've had any no's on that question, but you may want to check to see if there are any funding source restrictions that may limit you on that spending. So if there are no limitations, then yeah, you probably use a co-op to buy software. But again, check to see if there are any limitations on it because sometimes, with a bond or with federal funding, there may be limitations on how to spend that money. So I would just recommend you check with the source to be sure if there are any limitations on that. Okay, so what types of commodities are available through DIR's cooperative contracts? Well, things like computers, desktops, laptops, tablets, the Microsoft Surface Pro series, things like that. All hundreds of brands of software doing any number of different functions and software as a service. Also, things like networking equipment, printers and copiers. I know a lot of you use our printer and copier contracts. Law enforcement type products, things like security products, body cameras, drones. This is not an all-inclusive list, but it does give you a good high-level overview of the types of commodity items that you can buy through our cooperative contracts. Um, Things like projectors. We've got a certain set of contracts that focus on classroom interactive products, hardware and software for learning environments. Um, we've now started awarding artificial intelligence products and services. Those are available as well. So again, kind of gives you a high level overview of the types of commodities or products that are available. We also offer services contracts as well, for things like IT staffing services or technology-based training. That includes instructor-led training as well. Things like, seat management services or end user IT outsourcing. That includes things like asset management services or help desk ticketing, things like that. Web development, if you need to redo or upgrade your websites. Also, other telecom products and services are available. Things like web conferencing, interpreter services, things like that also available. Things like, Zoom and WebEx and those types of services. We also offer IT staffing services. So if you've got an IT need at your entity and maybe you don't have somebody on staff to do that IT related work for you, you can use our IT staffing contracts. These offer a wide variety of different job categories where you can bring contractors in to do that IT related work for you. If you have been using our staffing contracts, you will notice that there are new contracts now in place. We just did the resolicitation for IT staffing contracts, and those new vendor contracts have now been awarded to vendors. And incidentally, there's kind of specialist areas available too. So if you need like a digital media person or a drone operator, those types of specialist areas are also available through our IT staffing contracts. We also have deliverables-based IT services contracts available. So these are services-based contracts that work from a statement of work because these are project-based for things like, technology upgrade services or data migration, data warehousing services, things like IT assessments and planning services. So again, these aren't commodity based; these are service based, and these work from a statement of work because they are project based contracts. Then again, we've got those bulk purchasing agreements that we offer from time to time where you can find deeply discounted products and services. I think there's some in place right now for things like Salesforce, but in the past, we are currently working on some with like Dell to get some in place for like computers and hardware. In the past, we've offered things like Adobe Sign and DocuSign under software. And we've also offered security products and related services as well. So I've given you the link to the DIR website where you can find our bulk purchasing initiatives, and you'll find all the contract documents available for anything you might need to make under a bulk purchase agreement. We also offer telecom products and services for our customers as well. And this is a wide variety of different telecommunication services that you can utilize for your entities. And we kind of do that in three ways. Again, first of all, we manage the Capitol Complex telephone system for agencies in and around the Capitol here in Austin. Then we've also got our Texan contracts. Those are Texas Agency Network contracts where you can buy things like voice services. That includes local and long distance services, as well as data offerings. You can buy internet services through these pre negotiated contracts as well. Again, all the pricing and details have already been negotiated with the vendors. So that's going to save you some time and money to buy Texan services through DIR. And then these contracts also offer a wide variety of different wireless and other managed services as well. Things like cell phones, smartphones, data services, conferencing services that are a part of a telecommunications contract. The conferencing services are also offered as a standalone under our cooperative contracts program as well. And then there's other managed services available as well, things like the IT infrastructure for call centers or contact centers, phone system management for the PBXs that sit on our desks, things like VoIP services. I'm working from home today, and I use Jabber when I work from home with a Jabber speaker. So those types of services are also available. And again, I've given you the link to the telecommunications page on the DIR website, so you can go out and look and see what our telecom contracts offer as well. So, when you do use the DIR cooperative contract with our DIR vendors, when you pull up that vendor page, you're going to see common elements that are specific to that DIR vendor contract. You will see the contract document itself, and that will also include any exceptions that were negotiated with that vendor at the time that the contract was negotiated and awarded. You will see the Appendix A standard terms and conditions. We are currently amending all of our contracts to update the standard terms and conditions. Again, that's specific to the vendor contract. Your Appendix B will be the hub subcontracting plan that is specific to that DIR vendor. And that's going to tell you two things. A, it's going to tell you if the vendor is self-performing under the scope of their DIR contract. In other words, they're doing it all. They're providing the product and the supporting services. Or B, it will tell you if that vendor is utilizing any resellers or subcontractors under the scope of their DIR contract. So keep in mind that vendors can update that hub form at any time during the term of their DIR contract. So they can add or remove resellers or subcontractors at any point. But they do need to keep that form current at all times. Your Appendix C will be a pricing index if it is a commodities-based contract. That's going to show you the brands available and the discount percent off of those brands and services that are being offered. Or if it's a services-based contract, that Appendix C will be a statement of work template. So it's going to depend on the scope of the contract you use as to what Appendix C you're going to see. And then you'll see any other appendices attached as they're needed. You might see service agreements or lease agreements or statements of work for the service portion of a commodity. I've put asterisks by here because we're currently changing and going to be changing some of these appendices in the near future. So for example, a lot of you use our printer and copier contracts, and a lot of you like to lease those. Typically, we attach a master lease agreement to that DIR vendor contract page, but my understanding is that we're not going to attach that anymore because it's not a required document. You can still lease them. That's not the issue. You can still lease those things, but vendors like Canon, they have their own lease agreement that customers use when they lease through the Canon contract. So, we found that a lot of our customers just negotiate a lease with the vendor and don't necessarily use that lease agreement template that's attached. Doesn't mean that you don't still have access to our template. You can still use that template, but you just may not see it attached to the contract page. Same with service agreements. They're not a required document, but if you have a service agreement, you're going to need to read the updated contract and terms and conditions to see the new order of precedence if you don't see it listed. I hope that's clear. We're still in that process. So, in other words, don't freak out if you pull up a DIR contract page and you don't see the lease agreement attached. It doesn't mean that it's not available. It just may mean that you need to negotiate the lease directly with the vendor. Okay. Then you'll also see the attached request for offer. That's what DIR used for vendor responses and what was posted to the Electronic State Business Daily, and then what that vendor contract was eventually awarded and negotiated under. And then, of course, you'll see any amendments that have been processed for that vendor contract as well. So any vendor contract you're using, you can download all of your contract and procurement documents from that vendor page for your file in order to make that procurement. Keep in mind that our contracts do have survivability clauses built into them. So As long as you get your POs issued to the DIR vendor before that vendor contract expires with us, it's okay. Survivability is going to allow it to play out in full, even if that vendor contract expires with us. So let's say you've got a 1 year initial term and 3 1 year renewal options to issue to a DIR vendor, but you see on the website that that contract expires with us on September 1 and there are no renewal options remaining. It's okay. As long as you get your PO issued to the vendor before the contract expires with us, survivability is going to allow it to play out in full. That vendor still needs to keep reporting to us under their expired contract until they fulfill all of their customer orders under that agreement. We might be over here on the backside trying to negotiate a replacement contract with that vendor, but things could be different under that replacement contract. It could have different terms and conditions or different pricing. The other possibility is maybe that vendor might not get a replacement contract. Sometimes negotiations can break down. So just keep in mind that there is survivability built into our cooperative contracts. As long as you get your POs and your agreements issued to the vendor before the contract expires with us. Also, be aware of any areas where vendors are trying to vary from the DIR terms. Vendors have already had a chance to take exception to any terms and conditions when that contract was negotiated and awarded to that vendor. But you can also negotiate additional T's and C's with our vendors, provided they don't conflict with or diminish DIR's contract terms. So if you've got HIPAA requirements or CGIS requirements, or maybe you need additional acceptance criteria, things like that, you're now in the driver's seat at this point to negotiate those additional T's and C's, as long as they don't diminish or conflict with DIR's terms and conditions. And just remember that our contract terms have general priority over almost all vendor documents. There are exceptions for things like license agreements, in the future lease agreements, things like that. But if you're being asked to sign something by a vendor and you're just not sure if you should sign it or not, and you don't see it attached to the vendor contract page, just reach out to your DIR contract manager. We can help answer all of those questions for you. Now, vendors can add documents to their contracts. That's allowable, but it's a process. It's got to go through negotiations and reviews and routings and signatures, things like that. So just keep those helpful tips in mind if you're using a DIR contract, that you can negotiate additional T's and C's, and that there are survivability clauses in our contracts that cover you if the contract expires with us. Any questions on those? Okay, about halfway through, so let's take a quick break here. The second half seems to go a little bit quicker, so let's go ahead and take a quick break here. I've got 2:49, so let's take 10 minutes and just come back at 3 o'clock. Okay, see ya at 3. Before we get started, I just wanted to take a minute and see if anybody had any questions you might want to pop in the Q&A box. Feel free to do so. I hope you're finding this information helpful. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and continue on. And instead of talking through the next few slides, I'm going to pop over. Give me a second here. I'm going to go over to the DIR website. You'll see my DIR website right now. Awesome. Good. Thank you. So, a couple of years ago, back in 2021, we redid the DIR website and tried to make it a little bit more user friendly. Trying to find things from both the customer perspective and the vendor perspective, and also the general public. So our goal was to kind of redo the website to make it a little bit easier to find things. If you saw the previous DIR website, you saw the train wreck that it was. So our goal was to make it easier. So you'll see this ribbon on every DIR web page that you are on the DIR website. Incidentally, you don't need a sign in or credentials or an agreement to use the DIR website. It is open to everybody. The sign in box is only for like state agencies so they can report things to us, or for vendors so they can report their vendor sales reports to us. So you don't need to worry about signing in or anything. So on this ribbon up here, if you click on the IT solutions and services, there's different categories here that you can click on. And let's say you're looking for our software contracts that are all, software products and related services. You can click on that link here, and if you scroll down here, you can see the different sets of contracts that offer software and software as a service. If you might be looking for a certain category or things like that. Let's say you're looking for, the accessibility products and related services. If you want to know a little bit that category, you can read about what's offered in it. And then if you go right to the bottom of that category, if you click on that link right there on the RFO number, that's going to take you to the list of vendors who offer, accessibility, IT software, hardware, and related services under their contracts. So we've got 9 vendors right now that offer the accessibility products and services. Incidentally, if you go back and you come back up here, and maybe you're looking for hardware products and related services. You can click on hardware products. You can scroll down and see the types of contracts that offer, hardware products and related services. And if you want to look at our cabling contracts, you can click on that little down arrow there, see the products that are offered, and you can click on the RFO number and go to a list of vendors, currently 30 vendors who offer cabling services. So that's a little bit way to, kind of narrow in on your search as well. One tip that I will give you is both on the software and the hardware page. If you're looking for the services contracts, those are located under here under the related content. So if you're looking for services contracts, you're going to want to click on technology services, and then that's where you're going to find the categories of different types of services. If you're looking for web development, again, you can click on the little down arrow and then click on the RFO numbers to be taken to the list of vendors. You can also, there's program areas under here too. If you're looking for co-op contracts or shared technology services, or maybe our telecom services, you can click on those. You've also got resources for policy and guidance if you're looking for security topics or legislative topics. You can access our resource library, which are board minutes and templates and other things that are in the library. This is also kind of a cool little function here, the IMA. If you're a state agency or a college or university or a local gov, you can be taken to pages that will relate to your entity type. And of course, there's always the popular search DIR function, and I use this function daily. When I'm looking for things on the DIR website like you are, I'm really not interested in all pages and content because I'm typically looking for contracts and vendors that offer what I'm trying to find on the DIR website. And in here, you can type in anything. You can type in key phrases, brands, you know, keywords, anything like that. So, just as a quick example, let's say you want to look for contracts associated with the word Microsoft. Of course, I've done this search many times. So I can type in the word Microsoft here, and then I'm going to come over here and click search. I'm going to give that a minute to work. So instead of all results, I'm typically looking for contracts that are associated with my search criteria. So right here, I want to click on contracts. And that gives me a pretty much narrowed down list of 31 search results that are associated with the word Microsoft. And you can further down select here. If you're looking for products or services, you can see the different categories of RFOs or products that we have done RFOs for. So these are all of our categories here. Or if you want to look for brands, you can click on select, and this little scroll bar here gives you all the brands of different products and services that we've got available on the DIR website. You can also further down select by hub types on this one right here, as well as commodity codes that are associated with your search criteria. You can also download these 31 results into an Excel spreadsheet. So if you click the download button, I'm going to give that just a second to work. You can download that spreadsheet right here, and I'm going to open that for you. And what this spreadsheet shows you is a lot of good information that is specific to your search. Gives you the vendor name, the vendor contract number. It's a quick overview of the contract. I don't typically take this column out because it's way big, but it also gives you DIR contact information, the person at DIR who manages that contract, as well as the contract term end date. Now, keep in mind, this is not the full end date. There may be renewal options remaining on the contract, but keep in mind, this is the current term end date. It might be the full end date, but you're going to want to look on the DIR website to see what the full term end date is. It shows you if the prime vendor is a hub or a non-hub vendor. And it also gives you some vendor contact information as well, email addresses, phone numbers, whether it's E-rate qualifiable. And then you'll notice here that Microsoft Corporation 4771 is listed multiple times. It's because over here in column K, there are resellers associated with that contract. So if you see a contract listed multiple times, check over here in column K because there may be resellers associated with it. You might also notice that a contract is listed only one time in your search criteria. That means that there are no resellers associated with that contract. So many of you use the Carasoft contracts. So here's a prime example again of 5175 listed multiple times. It's because there are resellers who you'll want to reach out to for any pricing information. And then further over, you can also see information on whether that reseller is hub or non-hub and what their hub affiliation is, as well as contact information for those resellers. So this spreadsheet is a good way to, go collect some email addresses or look for vendor contact information rather than having to look up each contract. You can pop those emails into an Outlook, attach your documents, and say, I need your pricing by 5 p.m. on June 5th or whatever. So use that spreadsheet as a resource. Okay, I'm not going to save that. So those are a couple of good ways to, search on the DIR website. So let's say you're looking for the Microsoft Surface computers because you need to buy some. I'm going to cheat a little bit here because I used to manage this contract back in the day, but this contract right here is the one that offers the Microsoft education, under education IT, they offer the Microsoft Surface products. So anytime you pull up a vendor contract page, you'll see information about the vendor, you'll see the vendor contact information, and you'll also see a DIR contact. Use this person frequently if you have any questions about that DIR vendor contract. Um, Personally, I know James, he's awesome, and he would be able to answer any questions you have about this contract. It also gives you a quick overview of the contract, and in this case, the contract does fully expire on June 7th of 2025. So the replacement contract is probably coming, so look for that to show up soon on the DIR website. But under each contract, you can see the associated products and services. This is for education IT hardware. You'll see the commodity codes that are associated with that DIR contract. You'll see the brands available under that vendor contract. And again, if you use like SHI or Carasoft, you're going to see tons of different brands listed for those contracts. You can also pull up the contract documents for that vendor contract. And this is the screenshot that I showed you earlier. It shows you the contract, the Appendix A, the hub subcontracting plan, and the last date that that was approved on. You can look at their pricing index. So let's say I want to look and see what's available on this DIR vendor contract. I'm going to open the Appendix C. Yep. So this has the Surface laptops, the Surface books, and all kinds of warranties associated with it. And it shows you the discounts and everything else that are available. Also, you can come back here to the vendor homepage, and each DIR contract has a vendor website specific to that DIR contract. So if you want a little more information, you can click on that link right here. Okay, so this talks about their DIR contract. It is for education IT, and it shows you the pricing list. So if you want to look at the price list for what's available, you can click on that link right here, and that's going to download, in this case, into an Excel spreadsheet. So I'm going to open that spreadsheet. Come on, I thought I was. Let's try it again. There it is. So here's where your pricing list will be. It'll show you the items available, the description, the SKU, the MSRP, the discount, and then the final DIR price. So that's a good way to find pricing information on commodities that you might need to buy for any DIR vendor. If you go back here, you will see under this contract, you can also see if there are any resellers associated with it. And yes, there are. These are the multiple ones that showed up on the spreadsheet that I first showed you. So you've got contact information here for resellers. So you want to reach out to the resellers for any pricing on this DIR contract. And you'll see if they're hub or non-hub, and then contact information as well. I can come back up here and I can do the same thing with, I'm going to use the word Adobe. That's a pretty another common product that a lot of people search for. So in my search box, I'm going to type in the word Adobe. And again, it kind of gives me 1,000 results, and that's way too many. But in this case, I'm going to look for the brand here, and I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to scroll down here, and I'm going to find Adobe. And I'm going to select Adobe, give that a minute to work. Dun, dun, dun. So there are 4 contracts that are associated with the word Adobe. So that is, another way that you can find information on DIR contracts is to come down here on Adobe. And you'll see here that like SHI is a value-added reseller for Adobe and Microsoft products. Zones LLC is a value-added reseller for Microsoft and Adobe products. So there are currently 4 contracts that offer both Adobe and Microsoft products and services. So again, if you want to pull up, SHI's contract here, you can get contact information. You've got a DIR contract. You can pull up their contract documents. You can see the brands that are available. You can see if there are resellers. Nope, there are no resellers. So you're going to want to go directly to SHI for quotes like that. So those are ways that you can search on the DIR website. If you have any questions when it comes to searches, things like that, feel free to reach out and let us know. We're more than happy to help answer those questions. The other one I wanted to show you was the Texas Open Data Portal. And again, that link on the Open Data Portal slide is live, and that address is data.texas.gov. And if you go to that website, and this is where you will find a lot of information on public entities located throughout Texas. Again, it's for higher ed, local govs, state agencies, where you can post electronic data out here. If you're looking for information on DIR and maybe your entities, you can click on the business and economy section right here. First tip, a lot of you ask us, how can I get a list of DIR vendor contracts? That list is right here. So on this first tab, if you want to find our current active DIR vendor contact list, you can click on that link. And then if you come over here in the upper left ribbon and click on data, that's going to start your download for all of the current DIR contracts that we have available right now. So this is our co-op contract and our telecom contract list. You can also export this data up here in the upper right-hand corner. You don't need a sign-in to use this, by the way. You can export this data into an Excel spreadsheet. So you can download our current list of DIR vendor contracts at any time on the DIR website. That list was just updated today, so you've got the most current list. So let's say you want to find your entity spending. Right here is the official DIR cooperative contract sales data. And a lot of you, maybe reach out to us once in a while and say, hey, can you give me a spending on what we've spent with DIR? This is what this is designed to show you right here. So again, if you come over here to the upper left and you click on data, it's going to start showing you every entity back to 2010 who has spent money through DIR's cooperative contracts. Now, maybe you want to sort some of this data and find your own entity spending. I'm going to come up here under the upper right-hand corner, and I'm going to do the drop down under Actions, and I'm going to click Query Data. So this is the list of every entity in DIR's eligible customer network who has spent money on a DIR cooperative contract all the way back to 2010. Again, we're probably going to shorten this data because 2010 data is really kind of outdated. So we're probably going to be changing the open data portal, but it shows you the physical year, the customer name, which we are our own customer because as a state agency, we have to buy IT products and services through our co-op contract. It also shows you the vendor name, the purchase amount. Now, these are not full PO amounts. What these are itemized invoice amounts because you might have one PO and invoice against it many different times throughout the term of your agreement. So these are actually itemized invoice amounts. And then it shows you the contract number that it was bought under, the RFO scope, the RFO number, whether the entity is a state agency or K through 12, and then it shows some customer contact information as well. And if you scroll over further, you can see that there's more information. There's vendor contact information. Of course, back to 2010, a lot of this is outdated now as well. But let's say you want to find out your spending on what you might have spent on DIR's cooperative contracts. You can come down here on the lower left and start filtering data. So what you're going to want to first do is filter by customer name because that's you, the customer who's bought through DIR. And here you've got some other drop-down options. And when I start searching here, I start with the word contains because I'm not quite sure how that customer name is going to look. So In here, who can I pick on today? Let me see here. I'm just going to type in the word Paris and I'm going to hit enter. I want to make sure that that box is whited out. And I also want to come down here and make sure that this apply box in the lower left corner is blue or purple, whatever you see on your screen. So I'm gonna filter here by customer name contains the word Paris. And I'm going to click apply. And hopefully the hamsters are running the wheels pretty quick today because this is a large data set. Okay, so here you can kind of start seeing the city of Paris, Paris ISD, Paris Junior College. You can see these entities associated with the word Paris. There are 51 pages of data here. Now that you know, maybe you're the city of Paris, you can come down here now and maybe filter your source a little bit and type in, I'm going to type in city of Paris. And again, I want to make sure that I hit return. Now I can reapply that filter. Okay, so there is the city of Paris's spending. If you want to add a filter and you don't want to go back to 2010, by the way, that's based on the state fiscal year, which is September 1 through August 31st. So if I'm gonna filter here by fiscal year, and maybe I'm with the city of Paris and I want to know is the fiscal year is, and I'm just going to type in 2022 and I'm going to hit enter. Now I'm going to apply for both of those filters. So I'm going to click apply. And there you go. For 2022, the city of Paris was using, the Apple contract. They bought several different things. They were using the Dell contract. They were using West Publishing. So this is where you can see your entity spending, for the last 14 fiscal years. I can come down here and if I want to, I'm going to type in, I'm just going to use the word Texas woman and I'm going to hit return and I'm going to apply that filter. So here is Texas Woman's University going all the way back to 2010. They were using Annixter for some data networking equipment under this contract, and these were the invoicing amounts that they were invoicing against their PO to that vendor. You can also, again, select if you're Texas. Now, I want to update this real quick since I know that it shows us Texas Women's University. Click that. And then if I want to see the fiscal year, and I'm going to show that as is, I'm going to type in 2024. And I'm going to apply that filter. And there you go. That's Texas Women's University fiscal year September 1 through August 31st of 2024. Now, a couple of tips here. I know Denton County is on with us today, so I want to show you. I'm going to type in customer name contains, and I'm just going to type in the word Denton. Hit return, and I'm going to apply that filter. So, because it's a pretty wide stretch, you're going to see the city of Denton, Denton County, Denton ISD. If you're Denton County, you can say contains, or instead of contains, change it to is. And then if you want to start typing in something here, I'm going to just start typing Denton. And you can see that it's working there. Well, that didn't work. Here, let's try it again. Oh, there it was. Come on. I'm going to type in Denton County. And now I'm going to, now here's a tip. What if you don't know this yet, but what if there's a Denton County, Georgia, who's also using DIR's cooperative contracts? You can further then filter by customer state. And you want it to be Denton County, Texas. I'm going to change that to is, and then I'm just going to, well, it's already pre-populated. So you can sort by Denton County, Texas. And then you can apply that filter. And there is your spending all the way back to 2010 for Denton County, Texas. So in a nutshell, that's how you can use the Texas Open Data Portal to find your spending, no matter who you are. You can start searching. If you're Hardin County, you can search by Hardin County. If you're the city of Kemah, you can search by, type in the word Kemah. So there's all kinds of filters here that you can use to find your data. Okay, any questions on that?
And Tom, we do have a question in the chat from Darrell.
Okay, question. Daryl asks, I'm curious about any bulk purchase agreements in place today. Daryl, I think there's one there for Salesforce products. Well, I tell you what, let's go back over here and we'll just take a quick peek. And I'm gonna go back to the DIR website here. Here, let me do this. So, and again, I put the link directly in that slide for you, but let's go to buying through DIR. This is the page, our customer page. So let's come under here and look for bulk purchasing opportunities right here. So yes, there are a couple of ones in place, and you'll see them listed here, Daryl. Whatever is up currently. Again, these change frequently, but if we have one for Dell that's coming in pretty soon, it's going to be listed on this page right here, and you'll be able to see what Dell offers. But let's look at this Carahsoft bulk purchase agreement. So it looks like, okay, so here's the contract document itself. This is good through June 30th, right here. That's going to be spelled out. And it looks like here's the signed agreement between DIR and Carahsoft. And here is your product list right here. So let's see here. Let's rotate this a little bit and enlarge it a little bit. So it looks like there are Salesforce items available through this DIR contract, and here's the description of the products that are available. So this shows you everything, Daryl, that will be available through any bulk purchasing agreement that we have in place. And again, if you look at this page, you'll see everything listed right here that is currently available. So you can look at any of these. Again, we've had Dell, we've had computers, we've had HP, we've had DocuSign, we've had Adobe Sign. So this is your bulk purchasing opportunities page right here, and you'll be able to find everything. I hope that answers your question, Daryl. Okay, I'm going to pop back over to my presentation here. Give me a minute to find it. Okay, so bear with me. I've already gone through these slides and shown you all of these things. Okay, a couple of quick things on statements of work. Some of our contracts are in your contract world. Some projects require a statement of work. Our DIR contracts typically have a statement of work attached for our DBITS contracts. Our seat management or end user IT outsourcing, that's for things like help desk services, IT outsource services, things like that. IT security services, cloud services, web development, document imaging and enterprise content management, also our staffing contracts. And if you're doing a complex project, maybe you're customizing and integrating and you're looking for an overall project solution, we recommend that you maybe consider a statement of work for that type of project as well, because those can be, kind of hairy projects if you're building a new database or you're migrating data, things like that. So not every DIR contract has a statement of work, but there are certain contracts that do require a statement of work when you're working with a vendor. And this is the list of contracts that typically require a statement of work. Also, just a note here, under TAC Code 212, only state agencies have to submit a statement of work to DIR for approval if it's over 50,000 and falls within this set of contracts. That rule does not apply to our local governments, K through 12, higher ed, or any other eligible customer. So it's only state agencies that have to get those approved by DIR. There are templates available if you do need to write a statement of work for both waterfall and agile methodologies. I'm going to cover that in just a minute, which one is which. So you don't always have to start from scratch. There are templates available to help you along the way. And when you do have to write a statement of work, when you're planning that statement of work, define the need. What are we trying to accomplish with doing this IT related project? You've got to define the need. It's also a project rather than a task. So take the project approach when you're planning a statement of work. And then you also have to develop the necessary elements to manage that vendor contract along the way when you are doing a project that requires a statement of work. Getting that right scope could be a lot of stakeholder engagement. It could be procurement, subject matter experts, your legal folks, your IT staff, maybe any security representation. That team collaboration helps build that document, and that's also going to help you identify how it's going to be executed, analyzed, and managed along the way throughout the term of your project. It's important to set SMART goals when you are developing a statement of work. Things like setting SMART goals to grow online registration by 5% by fiscal year end. A not so smart goal is to maximize potential of agency website traffic. Well, yes, that's a goal. It is, but it's not really measurable. So setting specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely goals. Another quick example is to reduce licensure wait time to less than 2 minutes by the end of June. That's a very specific, measurable goal. Or to double our capacity to deliver benefit disbursements by November 1. Those are very identifiable and measurable goals. If you develop a statement of work, some key questions to ask. Is it going to be agile or waterfall? I'll talk about the methodologies in a minute. Who needs to be on the team to make this succeed? Again, you got to identify those players on who can help develop that statement of work, and then that sets the case on how that's going to be managed and analyzed. You also have to identify risks and ways to mitigate those risks. And then how are we going to measure the success of this project? So all things to think about when you are developing an IT statement of work. So the methodologies that we'd mentioned, there are two kind of methodologies that come into play for IT. The waterfall method is a very structured, known outcome and works well with projects, that have that assured predictability. You know where you need to be. Agile works better for projects that might require a lot of design or integration or customizing, things like that. So it's going to depend on the scope of your project as to what method might work best. You might use Wagile, boom, 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 which is a combination of both waterfall and agile approach. Some things to consider when when you're developing those elements of a statement of work. Make sure you include a scope of the project. What is it we're trying to accomplish here? What are the roles and responsibilities of everybody that's going to be involved, from both you, the customer, as well as the vendors that you're going to be working with? Identifying deliverables. If that's a service, what are those deliverables going to look like? What's your period of performance or the schedule that you're working on? Is this going to be a 6-month project, a year-long project? What about any service levels? Do those need to be incorporated? The acceptance criteria, and has that been an agreed to price? And then pricing and payment for milestone payment schedules. Are those spelled out in your description? And then what about any assumptions? If you assume the vendor's going to do something, or the vendor is assuming you're going to do something, make sure you take those assumptions into consideration so you get the result that you need. Other items to consider if you're doing an IT project. You need to pay attention to security standards. What about accessibility compliance? If you're redoing your website, it's got to be accessible for hearing and sight impaired folks. Give an introduction and background. Why? Give a history. These were our previous problems. This is the scope of where we want to be. If you're going to be soliciting vendors, make sure you have evaluation and response submission requirements in your statement of work. Are there any other additional terms and conditions that you need to consider? If you're transitioning vendors from one to another, do you have a transition plan in place? What about, data center services? Who's going to host your data? Do you have a disaster recovery plan in case a natural disaster happens? Are you going to award to a single vendor or to multiple vendors? What are your eligibility requirements that vendors have to meet? And also making sure that the vendor is qualified to do the work that you need them to do. And we've got a wide variety of useful links on the DIR website. If you're doing IT projects, you can view our statement of work page, our deliverables-based IT services. There are legacy modernization pages you can read. There are accessibility pages, and there are also security resources. So use those pages if you are doing a statement of work and you need to develop that for your IT project. And if you have questions about statements of work, feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to be a resource for you. So when you do use a DIR cooperative contract with a vendor, I'm going to share some quick tips for managing that IT contract with that DIR vendor. Because it's you, the purchasing entity, that is responsible then after DIR gets that master contract awarded to the vendor. It's you then that's responsible for managing the aspect of that contract when you use a DIR cooperative contract vendor, making sure the vendor is compliant with the requirements that you seek from that vendor. Also reviewing schedules and milestones for maybe services type projects that you're going to be working on, making sure that that schedule and those milestones are spelled out. You are then responsible for managing any vendor performance with that DIR vendor as well. We're a resource for any contract issues, but it's ultimately on the customer to manage any vendor performance. And also, you need to ensure that any vendor staff has been trained or might have taken any required cybersecurity training. And we're going to talk about those requirements in just a minute. So then after that contract is awarded to the vendor, you have to manage that agreement with that vendor in accordance with things like the defined scope. Is that clearly defined, and does everybody know what you're trying to accomplish with this project? What about the defined acceptance criteria? Have all those pricing issues been worked out and agreed to? What about any specified milestones? Are those clearly spelled out as to where you need to be throughout the scope of your project? And then, like I'd mentioned, for agile type projects, you're going to have many different stakeholders involved. If you're building a new database, do you have user acceptance and testers lined up? Is this doing what we need it to do? It's important to have a kickoff meeting with that vendor, making sure that everybody knows what the goals and the expected results of the project are. Everybody understand those. What about performance requirements? Does everybody know what's expected of them? Defining the team. What are the roles and responsibilities of everybody involved? Clarifying escalation processes. And part of that is just making sure you have an escalation process in place in case something does need to escalate. As I always say, if you start seeing vendor issues early, it's better to address them early rather than them mushrooming into something that becomes a little more hard to manage. And then if at that kickoff meeting, it's also equally important to review the schedule so everybody knows where you need to be. Checking deliverables if you're doing things like services. Are status reports called for, and are they being, reviewed and submitted? Again, do you have a disaster recovery plan in place? You don't want to lose your data. Do you have a backup plan in place? User acceptance testing. If you're building that database, are you testing it to make sure that it's doing what it needs to do? We talked about accessibility. If you're upgrading or redoing your websites, we all work in some form of government or another, so we've got to make sure websites are compliant. And incidentally, as many of you know, accessibility standards are a very hot topic right now for not only state and federal governments, but for local governments and school districts as well. And then, of course, reviewing the acceptance criteria. Make sure you manage that for compliance. If you're getting a service done, making sure you're getting that service that you need. Or if you're taking delivery on computers, make sure they haven't been damaged or gotten wet in shipment. Identifying any areas of risk. We're human beings. We can't possibly identify every risk that could possibly happen, but we have to do our due diligence and then identify any outstanding items that we may have missed in those risk assessments. And part of that is knowing the difference between a risk and an issue. A risk is something that could happen. An issue is a risk that has happened. For example, a risk is we could have a cybersecurity attack. An issue is, oh no, we've had a cybersecurity attack. Now what do we do? So you've got to have mitigation plans in place for each one of those identified risks. And then, of course, communicating with all of your players and your stakeholders on the status of those risks. Checking quality. Make sure you measure that against the acceptance criteria. Are you getting what you're paying for? Identifying any items that are not in compliance and having plans in place to bring those items into compliance. Also, don't accept the items that don't meet the requirements and the quality that you expect. You put a lot of time and money into buying things and to doing projects for your entities, so make sure you get the quality that you expect. And of course, budgets, making sure you're tracking deliverables to milestones for payment points. Are those clearly spelled out? And are invoices being submitted timely? And are they correct when they are submitted? Again, knowing what you're paying for, making sure you're getting it. You've put time and money toward projects and items and commodities. Make sure you're getting what you're paying for. And then, of course, we all know that everything goes 100% on schedule as planned. Who needs change notifications, right? Now, I'm kidding. So again, knowing when purchase order change notices or change notifications are needed, or change orders, as they're sometimes called. So having plans in place to address those changes. Okay, finally, one of our last sections here. There are hub opportunities available on DIR's contracts. Remember that every DIR contract does have a hub subcontracting plan. Again, that's going to tell you if the vendor is self-performing or if they are using any resources or any resellers or subcontractors. Vendors can update those at any point, so make sure you have a most recent copy in your procurement file. For you folks with higher ed that are on with us today, or for any of you that might follow a hub program, make sure you get your hub coordinators involved early because they need to seek clarification on that hub subcontracting plan for any dollar amounts or percentages that may be utilized in that procurement. Make sure that vendors are submitting a progress assessment report to you on a monthly basis. That typically comes monthly at invoice time, and they also submit that to DIR as well. Make sure, again, higher ed, that your hub coordinators get a copy of that PAR form, because hub coordinators for higher ed and state agencies, they have to report their hub spending twice a year to the comptroller and the LBB. Some of that comes from that PAR form. Also remember for everyone that any subcontractors not on the approved hub subcontracting plan do need to be added before they can be utilized. And just as an FYI, our DIR contracts do have hub goals. For other services, that goal is 26%, and for commodity items, it's 21.1%. So for those of you that follow the State Hub program, those are the goals that our contracts hold. And if you have any questions about Hub, you can reach out to our Hub team, very wonderful, capable team to answer any of your Hub-related questions. Remember, the hub form is always Appendix B on the list of contract documents for any DIR contract. If you don't find one listed, just reach out to your DIR contract manager. We can help track that hub form down for you. Maybe it's currently being updated and it just hasn't been uploaded to the DIR site yet. There is wording in our terms and conditions that vendors should be aware of. Of course, we all know vendors read their documents thoroughly, right? But anyway, vendors know that they need to follow certain reporting requirements. And part of that is that PAR form that they should be submitting to you and to DIR on a monthly basis. Again, that typically comes at invoice time. If you do get a PAR form that you see that a subcontractor is being used that is not on the approved vendor's hub subcontracting plan or their Appendix B, stop work and stop payments with that vendor because they are not compliant under the scope of their DIR contract. They need to reach out to us, to DIR, to bring their hub form into compliance before any payment or work can continue. And again, I've given you contact information for our hub team. As I'd mentioned, Victor is on with us today, but Lynn, Teresa, Victor, Brianna, or Patty are excellent resources for any questions you have regarding the hub form or the hub program in general. Couple of quick things on cybersecurity training, and this affects all of us that work in some form of government or another. You probably get your emails now, time for your cybersecurity training, time for your training. So it's Government Code 2054.519. That is the state cybersecurity training program. Required DIR to work in consultation with the Texas Cybersecurity Council. Had to certify at least 5 cybersecurity training programs. We've got many more than that available, but it said you have to have at least 5. This applies to all of us who work in state and local government, also institutions of higher education, school districts to a certain degree, not to the degree that the rest of us have to hold, but for school districts, you can work with your technology directors or your security, information security officers. They know the rules for school districts, but also state contractors have to be aware of this as well. So any contractors that access state computer systems or databases are required to complete a certified training program. And then if that contractor changes agencies, they may need to complete additional cybersecurity training. But you can look at the DIR website. Here is the link to the training requirements and how that affects all of us, and then the reporting requirements that security officers need to do to report those results to DIR. There are other cybersecurity resources available to all of you, our eligible customers, that are available through DIR. There are grant programs available for cybersecurity. I've given you the link to the DIR website where you can read about federal grants that are available that are administered through the Office of the Governor and DIR. We have got our Texas Information Sharing and Analysis Organization, or the Texas ISAL. That's a forum for state agencies, local govs, public and private higher ed, and even the private sector to just share information about cybersecurity topics, best practices, and things like that. And again, there's information on DIR. We've got our CERT team, which is an incident response assistance for state and local governments that might be experiencing a cybersecurity incident. I'd mentioned earlier that Matagorda County was hit with an attack about 6 months ago. They called our CERT team, and our CERT team spent 2 weeks down there helping them with their incident response. There are other resources available. We've got our VERT team, which is volunteer incident responses across Texas that, provide incident responses assistance. We're in partnership with several institutions of higher education for regional security operations centers. These help secure local government entities from cybersecurity threats. We are in a partnership with Angelo State University, with UT Rio Grande Valley, and UT Austin. So those resources are available to local governments to keep you safe. The neat thing about those RSOC centers is that a lot of them are staffed with college students. So they're getting on the job training in cybersecurity and helping keep local governments safe throughout Texas. There's also law enforcement training available if law enforcement staff might need to investigate a cybersecurity attack or a crime. There are resources available. And again, that information is available on the DIR website. We've got our CyberStar certificate program. That's for public and private entities in Texas that implement best practices for cybersecurity. We've got, our regional mutual aid framework, which is to help local governments establish, cybersecurity working groups for mutual aid, sharing data back and forth. And we've also got our security guide available on the DIR website. So I invite you to, you know, click on any of those links for more additional information on cybersecurity resources that are available to our customers. You can also directly reach out to our cybersecurity team at DIR. They're more than happy to answer any cybersecurity related questions for you. And I know we've got some higher ed on with us today, so I need to cover this slide. So a couple of legislative sessions ago, Texas Senate Bill 475 defined a need for a Texas Risk and Authorization Management Program, or TexRAMP. And what this bill basically said was this: if you're a state agency, an institution of higher ed, or a junior college, and you are using cloud services, you are required to use TexRAMP certified cloud services. That list of approved products and services is always available on the DIR website, so everybody has access to that list of approved entities. If you're not one of these entities, if you're a local gov or assistance org and you want to use TexRAMP certified products, you've got access to that list as well. But the rule doesn't specifically apply to our local gov and assistance orgs. It really only applies to agencies, higher ed, and junior colleges. I will say that if a product is TexRAMP certified, that doesn't always mean it's going to be available through a DIR contract. So those are independent of each other. We hope it is, or we hope that down the road that product will be available through a vendor contract. But
Oh,
just keep that in mind that if it's TexRAMP certified, it may or may not be available through a DIR contract offering. So I've given you, again, the program manual, and that list of products is available on the DIR website. I've given you those links. And if you're doing a procurement and you're a higher ed, you can reference Appendix 24 in the Texas Procurement and Contract Management Guide for that TexRAMP clause as you're negotiating with vendors. Okay, finally, I'm going to wrap up and leave you with some resources. So when it comes to IT procurements through DIR, you've got a choice. You can use our cooperative contracts, go directly to our vendors and do it yourself, or if the service is something on your mind or we have it available, let's look at maybe trying it through our shared technology services program. Under a couple of key takeaways here, remember that we're, as a state agency, all of our DIR contracts are competitively bid. Our contracts are then awarded in accordance with statute as set forth by the legislature. For our cooperative contracts program, you don't need to have an agreement in place with DIR. You go directly to that co-op vendor, you buy what you need, and then you manage that contract with that vendor through the DIR master contract. But under our shared technology services offerings for things like data center, texas.gov, managed security services, and the open data portal, you do need to have agreements in place with DIR. You then place your order through the ordering system, and then you tell us what you need and we go get it done. There's information for vendors on the DIR website. I know a lot of you talk to vendors and you ask them if they have a DIR contract. They say, no, how do I get one? You can refer them to the DIR website under the Selling Through DIR box. That's the vendor page where vendors can read about how to become a DIR vendor. Or you can simply refer them to us. We are glad to talk to vendors about how to become a vendor. But they can learn here about how to do business with DIR. They can view our schedule of solicitation opportunities where we post our RFOs for vendors. And if they're a hub vendor, we've also provided information on how they can certify with the comptroller's office and become hub certified with the state of Texas. Under the Doing Business with DIR, vendors can read about how to become a prime vendor, or they can read about how to become a reseller or a subcontractor with a prime vendor through DIR's current vendor contracts. Our schedule of solicitation opportunities page is always available so vendors can see, and you can also see what we've got on our procurement schedule at any given time. You can see what starts in the planning stage. We typically update this page every September at the start of the state fiscal year with the procurements that we're planning to do in that fiscal year. So they start in the planning stage, then they move to the pre-solicitation phase, which means it's starting to move forward. We're doing notifications, we're doing pre-bids, things like that. Then it moves to the posting phase. And when that RFO is posted out on the DIR website or to the ESBD, that's when it's actually open for vendor responses, and they can download the documents and submit responses to us by the deadline. Vendors can also see what are now closed and we're currently evaluating and negotiating. So use that schedule of solicitation opportunities for your planning as well. Use the DIR website. There are FAQs out there. There are webinars and events and templates. If you see something in the marketplace that we don't have, fill out that request for technology products and services form, because chances are if you're looking for it, somebody else is looking for it too. So, we can only negotiate with vendors what they propose to us. So we do our best to reach out to the vendors and say, this is the scope of our RFOs, give us your products and services. But, sometimes we just don't have it available. I showed you the open data portal. Go out and see who's buying what on DIR's contracts. Use your DIR contract manager. Each DIR vendor contract has a contact person for you for any contract related questions. Also, stay connected with us. You can subscribe to different DIR mailing lists. Don't want to spam you with email, and I hope I didn't do that with this webinar, but I just wanted to get the notifications and a couple of reminders out. So you can keep in touch with us in our collaboration rooms. If you go to the bottom of the DIR homepage, there's 4 blue boxes down there, and one of them says sign up for communications. Once you click on that, you'll be taken to a list of different discussion forums that you can sign up for, whether it's telecom or accessibility topics or training topics, things like that. You can also subscribe to our DIR Digest newsletter. Send us an email to outreach@dir.texas.gov, and we can sign you up for our newsletter, which is a monthly publication, talks about agency news, legislative updates, what events we have coming up, and any special projects that we're working on. So if you're interested in getting that, just send us an email to our outreach team. We'd be glad to get you signed up. With that, are there any questions before we end for the day? Again, I hope you found this helpful. Yes, Victor.
Tom, we have a couple questions in the chat Q&A box.
Okay, let me see. Where did my Q&A box go? Can you read those to me, Victor?
Yes, sir. If the quote is less than $20,000, do we still need to do a DIR contract?
So you're not really required to use DIR contracts. So if it's less than $20,000, check with your procurement team to see what the rules are at your internal agency, because if it's $20,000, you can pretty much go to any DIR vendor that you want to buy from. State agencies have to follow certain procurement thresholds to use DIR contracts, but other entities aren't really bound by those procurement rules. So check with your internal staff on any procurement thresholds that you may need to follow. For example, some entities, let's say for example you're doing cabling services, and you've got a vendor, got a project for the amount of $40,000 to do cabling. Your internal rules might say we have to reach out to 4 vendors, DIR vendors, because we want to shop that marketplace for cabling vendors. So that's an example of you're not required to use DIR vendors. We hope you do, but you might want to shop DIR vendors to get the best quote that you can. I hope that answered your question.
Okay, and the next question, will the recording and the webinar be shared?
So let me see what I can do. We do have a couple of webinars already uploaded to the DIR YouTube channel. They are from previous sessions that we've done, but it's basically the same content. So there are videos available for customer training on the DIR website already, but let me see what I can do about maybe getting this one uploaded to the DIR website for you. If after today you do have questions, feel free to reach out to any one of us here at DIR. Lisa and Lynn are our Chief and Deputy Chief Procurement Officers. Teresa is our Hub Director. I've been around for a while. I can get you headed in the right direction. And Clarissa manages our contract management office. Victor and I can answer any questions you might have or get you headed in the right direction. If you have security questions or text ramp questions, we can get those answered for you as well. So, with that, I thank you for your time today. Have a great evening, have a wonderful Friday, and have a fantastic weekend, everybody. And thanks for joining us today. Have a good night.